Appreciate that. We're going to start with Lita Baldor from AP. Lita, I think you're on the phones, yeah?
Yes, thanks, John. Thank you, General. I have a question about the screening of evacuees as they come in, and I realize the military isn't doing a lot of that, but can you give us a better picture of what is happening to people who may be failing the screening or problems with screening? Are the countries, the allies that you're dealing with, are they expressing some concerns about what is going to happen to those people? What will the U.S. do with them? And can you tell us also if there has been any COVID problems with those evacuees as they are being processed? Thank you.
Lita, I'll kind of go reverse order. Number one, we're pleasantly surprised at the very, very few COVID situations that we've had abroad in Europe. Our policy is to allow the field commanders in place to govern the administration of COVID testing and COVID vaccination based off conditions on the ground. And as you well know at this time, the game plan is for all of our evacuees and travelers to ultimately get to the United States, get to military installations, and then at that point, they would receive the appropriate testing and the appropriate vaccinations. With respect to allied concerns on folks that we are screening, so far we've had tremendous cooperation in this area. We've informed the nations of Germany, Italy, and Spain when we have individuals who are coming up close to the 10-day time limit, and we've received 100% cooperation from the nations in this area. And Lita, with respect to screening, it's come a long ways in the last 10 days. What we do is in-process our evacuees. And during the course of the in-processing, we conduct combined biometric and biographic screening so that through DoD channels, through CBP channels, and through FBI channels, we have comprehensively scrutinized their background. And this process takes place at the initial screening when the evacuees come to our intermediate bases. And we want to make sure that we conduct the screening, get the results, and ensure that we've got results on the individual before we put these individuals into their sleeping quarters. And then as they remain on station, at some point, they'll be notified that it's time to depart. And as the individuals depart, they'll be screened one more time to make sure that from a biometric and biographical standpoint, cleared through DoD, CBP, and FBI, that they continue to remain in the green. I will tell you, we've also been pleasantly surprised with the number of individuals that are in need of further processing / more screening. And the way the process works at Ramstein, the way it works at Sigonella, and the way it currently works at Rota is during that initial in-screening process, if an individual pops red, we calmly take them out of the normal processing line and we put them in a different location so that we can have some isolation and have a little bit of extra time to make sure that everybody is as safe and secure as possible. Lita, that's a big and over a little map description. It's a lot more complicated than that. We've refined this process over the course of the last 10 days. As you can well imagine, if we wind up in situations to where we are backed up with evacuees at certain locations, if the screening process is too exorbitant and too slow, we can wind up having some serious problems. When we initially started operations here in Europe, our average wait time in the in-processing line put us in a position to where we could in-process about 60 folks per hour. Today, we possess the capability to process 250 folks per hour, and that has a lot to do with the improvement in the software with respect to our biometric machines communicating with our biographical machines. Lita, I hope this helps.
A quick follow-up so I understand. When you say 250 folks per hour and 60 per hour, is that because you have more locations, or are you talking about at one particular location? And that's all I have. Thanks.
That's an average of the 3 current locations that we're working with here in Europe, at Ramstein in Germany, at Rota Nav Station in Spain, and at Sigonella in Italy.
Hey, General Wolters, it's Courtney QB from NBC News. I have just a couple follow-ups on all of that. So What happens when the individual pops red, as you said, and is sent for further screening? Have you had any who have not been ultimately cleared, and what happens in that case? And then I just want to be clear, when you're talking about the COVID situations, you're not actually doing any testing for COVID of the evacuees, correct? They don't get tested until they come to the U.S. or if you are, can you tell us how that's happening? Is it only people who present symptoms or self-identify as having symptoms?
Courtney, the process is as you just described. Ultimately, the plan is to test these individuals once they get to CONUS to their final military installation. But due to situations on the ground, and if we have situations where we see symptoms and the commander on site needs to have that person tested, we reserve the right to allow that commander to do so that he can preserve the health and well-being of the entire population in their community. They've got small resources to be able to do that. It hasn't been executed often. I can tell you in the last 3 days, it hasn't been executed once. So that takes care of the COVID side of the house. And Courtney, you talked a little bit about screening. Can you kind of clarify for me exactly what it is you're looking at?
Sure. So when an individual pops red, you said they're isolated for further testing or further screening, I guess. Have you had anyone who's not ultimately been cleared and brought back into the regular population? Or in other words, are you holding any individuals because they've popped red and not been cleared?
Courtney, at this time, it's a rolling number. I've got 58 individuals that are in need of further processing, and based on when they entered the queue, I anticipate that all 58 will probably clear. I will tell you that we've had one individual since the operation started in Europe on the 20th of September who actually popped red, and that individual is currently in the appropriate custody of U.S. interagency officials, and Germany has been very, very cooperative, and we are still working his background investigation.
Okay.